Professor, for a long time, for a very long time, you've been talking and crying about this continent you love. And I remember one question I asked you. How do you want to be remembered one day when you're gone? And with your own word, Professor, you told me this. I want to be remembered as someone who served the people of Africa. This is the journey to One Africa. Hey everybody, this is Mika. Welcome back to SNOA, and let's get right into it. This is my open letter to my African dad, PLO Lumumba, and to the rest of Africans. First and foremost, I'll begin by saying this. The mega and main problem that we have in the continent, or in Africans across the globe, is two things: miseducation and misinformation. The information that we have about the continent, the history that we have about continent, perhaps not even right. Because most of things, for example, you can take an example of Victoria's Falls, which the original name of this fall is Mosi-oa-Tunya. I just came from the Victoria Fall and I've seen the history of this lake. If you read the history, you find out that the person who discovered this place was David Livingstone. But you can ask yourself this question. You always had people living in that area of Mosi-oa-Tunya. They saw the Victoria Falls. The matter of fact, they used the water. Yet, they did not discover that place. Somebody else had to come from England to discover the place. As a result, that place right now is being called Victoria Falls, named after the queen that colonized this continent, Victoria. I can't blame them for that, but I can blame ourselves because until today, we still call Victoria Falls. While we truly know the history of that place, we know what it used to be called, Mosi-oa-Tunya. It means the smoke, the thunder. Yet we are still misinformed, our generation and our kids, by calling the name that it was introduced by the colonizers. I can say the same thing about the name Africa, that this was not the name of the continent. The continent had different name apart from that. There's so many different theories. I'm not going to go down to that. But the thing is that, think about this. What if the history of Africa and everything that you know about Africa is not really the truth? Because Africa had its own history before slavery, before colonialism. But what we know today is what went down through the slavery and what went down through colonialism. As a result, we're victimizing ourselves. We become complices, and we are not really stepping out and to do what we are called to do. But perhaps the problem and the issue that we are facing is misinformation. Not knowing the true identity of who we are, where we came from, that before we became slaves, we were kings and queens. The history of Africa matters. The understanding of where this continent came to be matters. And I'll tell you the truth, throughout my life, through years, I have discovered more of Africa, not only by reading the history, but by listening to my African daddy, PLO Lumumba, the professor himself, PLO Lumumba. Perhaps, to be honest, I've listened to almost all of the videos, all of the speeches. When you listen to him, you can actually see clearly what he's talking about. He speaks about the historical context, where Africa came from, all this movement of Pan-Africanism, where it came from, where we are right now, and where we should be. You can only predict the future by looking at the past, looking at what we did right and where we went wrong, and how can we change that to see the Africa we want. And to be honest, this has been one of my highest motivation, listening to Professor. And last year I had a privilege to meet him face to face. And I gotta tell you the truth, man. The professor that I saw in the videos, I did not think that he would be the same professor that I'll see face to face. But I was there right across him. I had an interview with him. You guys have seen the videos. And then I realized that this man is actually the same on the screen and behind the scene as well. Yes, I know I cannot say everything because I did not have enough time to sit down with him all many days. But the time that I spent time with him, 30 minutes, driving me from the place, from his place all the way to the hotel. The conversation that I had with him for almost an hour, and those conversations is here on our YouTube videos. It left me with one impression, that this man is the same behind the scene and on the screen as well. And therefore, I think it is the time to put action where our mouth is. Professor, for long time, for very long time, you've been talking and crying about this continent you love. And I remember one question I asked you that is not there on the video. How do you want to be remembered one day when you're gone? And with your own word, Professor, you told me this. I want to be remembered as someone who served the people of Africa. That is the only legacy you want to leave in Africa. Yes, so far you've served us with the knowledge, you've served us with the foundation and the beautiful work that you're doing in the continent. But I think your story has not yet ended. But I think that should not be the end. I think the final remarks of what you have to do is you run for the chairperson of African Union. So this is the call straight to my professor, my African daddy, that it is the time for you to run for a chairperson of African Union. The change that we have been desperately wanting for a long time. The things that we have been criticizing for a long time. That we see African Union Vision 2063, silencing the gun, is something that was supposed to happen in 2020. One Africa passport is something that was supposed to happen in 2018. But until today, okay, opening up borders, all this visa restriction in the continent, really bringing our countries together, reforming African Union by distributing the power. Because right now, the leaders of the countries have so much power than the union itself. More than 70%, it is the foreign aid from European Union and some other Western countries. How are we going to achieve the vision of African Union if we keep receiving money from them? Whoever feeds you controls you. And now we have an organization that is not really working for the benefit of the people because someone who is supporting it is not from the continent, somebody else, the white man. And we see the same thing in our organization. And we cannot blame them by doing that. We can only change that by actually having the proper leadership in the system that will work for the benefit of people and make sure that all this vision of 2063, we're not going to achieve 40 years from now, but we can actually start achieving today by cutting down all these aids that we receive from the outside and start supporting the organization as ourselves as African solutions to Africans' problem with African money. That's what we need in the organization. And these are values and elements that you, our African dad, has been speaking for years, going every single country, speaking to president, writing open letters to the African Union, everywhere, speaking over and over and over again. And I think now it is no time to speak. It is the time to actually take control and to be in charge. Yes, I know, perhaps this might not be something good to most of leaders in the continent, but the people of Africa, we have chosen you. As I'm sitting here and addressing this to you, these are not my personal thoughts. These are thoughts from our community. These are thoughts from our people that we want to see the change in the leadership system, because the failure and success of our countries and the continent at large is the result of the good or bad leadership. Whatever we see in the continent today, things that we struggle in Africa, we're struggling with food security. We're struggling with even security. We're struggling with division. We're struggling with basic needs in Africa. This is the failure of the leaders we have in the continent. And I'm not here to accuse everybody. Perhaps it's the time to bring change that Africa needs. And for now, I am confident more than ever to endorse PLO Lumumba, my professor, and to ask you, please run for the chairperson of African Union, because the people of Africa have decided that we want you. The people of One Africa, we want you to take charge. Africa needs change. Misinformation, miseducation are two things that constantly destabilized Africa. We need to be informed well. We need to be educated well. We need to decolonize our mind to know who we really are and what we need for this continent to move forward. PLO Lumumba, this is the time It is the time. African Union needs reformation, and it cannot be reformed if we don't have the right person that is stand on those chairs and call the shots. That will be for the benefit of the entire continent. I know this job is not going to be easy. I know dealing with the leaders in Africa is not going to be easy, because not everybody wants the unity for Africa. Not everybody wants the change that we as a people want. But we have seen so many deaths in the continent. We have seen so many casualties in the continent. We are seeing so many wars and conflicts all over the continent. Right now, as I'm saying, many countries in the continent are fighting with one another. Either it's civilly, wars, or conflicts, or country between country. We don't need this tension. We don't deserve it to go through what we're going through today in 21st century. We need our people to come and to unite, to be one people. We need this continent to be changed and to be transformed. And it can only happen if the people of the continent and the leadership that is sitting there on the African Union chairs, they actually have one thing in common. And we want nothing else but unity for our continent. We want nothing else but borderless in the continent. We want nothing else but single currents, single army, single phone code. We want nothing else but single African Union passport to the entire continent of our people, continent of Africa. We want nothing else but to bring back African descendants to the continent, that they can bring skills and expertise and share with the continent, rather than having brain drain and sending our kids away from the continent. As a result, they don't come back. And this is where we are. We need our people in the continent. We need to change this continent for a living. And I'm telling you, man, I know the change that we want, it can be brought by you, His Excellency PLO Lumumba. We all know the organization of PLO Lumumba Foundation. We know the good work you're doing to raise giants for this continent. We know how many youth in Africa today, they're doing what I am doing here because of you. How many youth today are speaking about the unity of Africa, decolonization of the mind, and staying independent together as Africans in the continent? How many youth today are speaking about that? It's a lot. And it's all because of your legacy. Therefore, if you want your legacy and you want to be remembered as someone who saved the people, this is one of the highest seats to save this continent of Africa. This is one opportunity for you to serve this continent. We need change, and Africans, we are tired. We are tired with everything that is happening in the continent. We are tired of being mistreated. We are tired. We are tired. We want our respect back. We want to earn our respect back. And that is not going to happen if the leadership of the African Union is not going to stand for the people. We want somebody who can stand and fight for the people of Africa. We want somebody who is going to stand and fight for the rights of Africans without being scared, without being worried what is going to happen to them. We want someone who will be willing to sacrifice himself for the people of Africa. You know, today is the day that we remember the death of one of the heroes in Africa, John Pombe Magufuli. You know, when he was dying, this is what he said, that I want to argue all Tanzanians to never stop fighting against bribes and corruption, because that is the only way that Tanzania is going to break out of this system. I wish I was here to fight, but I'm afraid I'm not going to have more time to be here. My call and my prayer is that we'll unite and fight for this continent and fight for this country, because Tanzania is rich. Africans are rich. And I'm not expecting, we don't have uncles and aunties in the Europe that will come and support us. Well, we can put our hands together and deliver ourselves from the chains of poverty. We can do it. And he said, I sacrifice myself. I sacrifice my life for the people of Tanzania. And I think this is the spirit we need in leadership. Not to die for the people or for the country, but to live every single day as if it's the last day for the people of the continent. And we need that. And we know you can do that. So please, Professor, this is the time to apply for the chairperson of African Union. And Africans, we are behind you. As I said, I'm not here to speak for myself. I'm here representing my people. I'm here. I know my community. I know our people, that African, young Africans, we want PLO Lumumba as the chairperson of African Union. And that's what we need for the change of this continent. We want African Union to work for our people, and we want all the vision that they want to achieve in 40 years from now to be achieved today, right now and right here. And we promise you to support you, to stand with you one step at a time to make sure that we bring that change in the continent, because it takes everybody to put hands together and to work together for the betterment of this continent. So I don't know if the application has ended, and I don't know when it's going to be closed, but the people have spoken, and we have decided to choose you, Professor PLO Lumumba, as the next chairperson of African Union. Hey guys, as you're watching this video, our vision is to reach 500,000 subscribers. Hit the subscribe button, join membership to support our channel, join Patreon and PayPal. All the links are in the description. Do that to stand with us for this beautiful cause of One Africa right now. We do not forget to sign up for the petition. The link is down below. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.